Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on Snow Adoption Tracker. My name is Robbie Richmond. I'm Managing Director of EasySAM. We're a specialist software asset management consultancy, and we work with a number of different tools and different technologies to kind of help deliver effective SAM for our customers. One of the tools that we regularly utilize is the Snow Software platform, and I'm joined today by Tony Coughlin, who's one of the consultants from Snow. Do you want to say a quick hello, Tony?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Tony Coughlin, as Robbie said there. I'm a solutions consultant here at Snow. Been working in the SAM industry for 15 years now as a SAM manager, also a consultant, and one of those conducting audits on behalf of some of the bigger vendors as well.
I think Tony, I think software asset management is like a pit. Once you get a job in software asset management, there's no escape. The product that we're going to demonstrate, or the sort of technology that we're going to demonstrate today, is Snow Adoption Tracker. Many of you will be familiar with Snow's product portfolio. Snow's been an industry leader in the SAM space for quite a long time. But one of the things that we've regularly come across as we talk to customers who are looking to implement a SAM tool is that SAM tools generally and Snow falls and historically fell under the same kind of category. There are a lot to take on. If you haven't got a technology in place, or you've got some basic inventory or whatever, and you want to start to progress towards full SAM, effectively your options were all or nothing. And fortunately, Snow have sort of taken the view that what they'd like to do is to try to make their technology available in more bite-sized chunks, and the first of those chunks, or the first that we're going to talk about today, is the Snow Adoption Tracker. So Snow Adoption Tracker is one of a number of technologies that Snow have broken their product down into, and Tony will go through that in a little bit more detail a bit further on in the presentation. And what this allows customers to do is to start their SAM journey with a relatively easy to use, easy to implement solution that gives them visibility and a high degree of accuracy on what their software estate looks like. So that's the kind of background a little bit, and I think with that in as a bit of a platform, I think what we'll do is hand over to Tony from Snow. Please, if you do have any questions along the way, do utilize the question and answers button, which should be on the bottom of your screen, and we do have some time set aside at the end to run through some Q&A. If the questions are technology oriented, then we'll probably ask Tony to respond to them. If they are kind of more process oriented, then hopefully I can help. So Tony, over to you, and hopefully everyone enjoys it.
Great, thanks again, Robbie, and yeah, welcome to today's session, everyone. And I'll be taking you through Snow's newly aligned product technology suite. And as Robbie said, we're going to have a specific focus on Adoption Tracker. So today I'm going to cover what is Snow's new technology suite, what's Adoption Tracker, and what value could it bring to your organization. We're going to attempt a live demo of the product as well, so that should be exciting. And then I'll recap with some use cases, and then we'll finish with a short Q&A session. Okay, so Snow's company mission is to provide complete insight and manageability across all technologies. Now, this is why we at Snow, we've kind of evolved our product suite to reflect the current market, and to better, we want to be better suited to how the whole SAM and ITAM industry has really changed. And we see technology intelligence as the future of software asset management, because traditional software is only one part of an increasingly complex IT landscape. And only when you know exactly what's happening in your IT environment can you then optimize it, right-sizing your technology investments across software, SaaS, cloud, hardware, and really in turn this helps mitigate any risks and increase compliance. And all this helps to drive that digital transformation within your organization. So at Snow, we call this one platform view technology intelligence. And this slide really introduces our new go-to-market to support that product strategy I've just mentioned. The Snow platform now consists of 4 distinct product lines and contains 6 separate products. The 4 product lines focus really on values and business outcomes now. And we believe this is where our product could really help you achieve in these areas. So we're looking at visibility, optimization, governance, and transformation of key processes and business performance. And so today we're looking at focusing on the visibility, and an adoption tracker essentially provides full discovery, detailed inventory, and normalization of digital technology assets across the enterprise. I think, simply put, adoption tracker turns the lights on and tells you what's really out there. And I like to use this kind of a simple warehouse analogy when I'm talking about adoption tracker. It's like you're trying to do some kind of stock take. You walk into a dark warehouse, switch the lights on, and you're seeing the scale of the room for the first time. And you really want to understand, how many shelves are there and what's on those shelves. And what about the things you can't see in that environment? If those boxes are sealed on those shelves, you need to know how many are there. And more importantly, you want to discover what's really inside. I think the actual timing of this session is really interesting as well. It's probably more relevant now than ever, given the number of people who are currently working remotely and the challenge that presents for a lot of companies. And that leads to the question about visibility. And I think naturally what we're starting to hear from customers is things such as, what devices do I have out there? What software are those, our users accessing, and from where? And Snow's adoption tracker discovers, identifies, and normalizes those company assets. And we do that by using a hybrid of agent and or third-party inventory sources. So adoption tracker consumes the raw inventory data from those sources within your organization, and that includes laptops, desktops, mobile servers, and cloud assets. Now, once we've collected the raw data, then it's normalized using our data intelligence service. And we use that to compare the data with our industry-leading database of over 650,000 applications from over 100,000 software vendors. The data intelligence service automates that normalization process and produces software records with standardized names and editions, so you can quickly and easily determine which software titles are in use and who's using them. And I suppose using this standardized and normalized data, adoption tracker will allow you to quickly generate standard and custom reports, so you can quickly discover exactly what software is in use across your organization and track the progress of things like, where you've got key IT initiatives, and also the ability to sort of share these insights with other stakeholders you have, and really help inform any critical business decisions that you're taking around your IT estate. I just wanted to mention the data intelligence service again. And I really wanted to emphasize the power of this and the impact it has on adoption tracker, because this is what really sets Snow apart from a lot of other SAM vendors, and you know, essentially makes us a consistent leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SAM. So I mentioned that the DIS provides the automatic recognition of over 650,000 applications, but it can also help identify over 8,000 SaaS applications for adoption tracker users. So this is where you've got users essentially using this kind of shadow IT type environments where they're going potentially taking subscriptions on their corporate credit cards. Well, you know, that's all well and good, but getting insight into who's doing that and to which sites is a real challenge for a lot of organizations. So Adoption Tracker can really help here. And obviously we also provide daily updates to the database for our customers. So everybody gets involved in any new applications that get recognized because the database is consistently growing in size. Okay, so let's have a look at the platform. Okay, so one of the key areas obviously is the discovery and inventory of devices. So when I log into the platform, I can quickly see what does it look like in my estate in terms of the inventory of those devices. What types of devices do I have in my environment? How many desktops, laptops, servers, virtual machines do I have? What's the most common operating system being used in my environment? Do I have any initiatives to transform these to Windows 10, for example? And how do I close the gap on those existing out of date or potentially vulnerable devices? We can also see the status of these devices in terms of the inventory. So how often are they being inventoried, and are they being inventoried on a regular basis? I think one of the other aspects to consider is those sort of known unknowns, and that typically presents itself in terms of discovery, because it's all well and good having an inventory source, but if you don't know that you have 95% of inventory of your devices, then how can you chase down those gaps? And Snow can also help with Adoption Tracker here in, for example, integrating to other systems such as Active Directory to look at devices that we know exist, and then we can compare those and understand where we have a gap over devices that exist in AD, but we don't have an inventory source for them. And then we can also look at the status of those devices. How many are active, how many are inactive or quarantined? And I think, you know, this is all critical to that success of implementing a SAM program. So let's look at those devices. I'm going to get a list now of all the computers, that'd be desktop, laptop, servers, virtual machines in my environment. And it's a nice simplified view. I can see the name, manufacturer, model. Here's all my operating systems. Here's the status I talked about. So Adoption Tracker automatically puts the devices into different statuses based on a configurable field. But let's say if a device is reported in within 30 days, that's active. If it's not reported in within 30 days, it might get moved to quarantine. And then you'll get an alert to say, actually, you've got a device that's gone off grid, and you can gives you then the ability to drill into that and understand exactly what's happened to that device. Has that person left the business, for example, or has the machine been lost or stolen? We can also see automatically which part of the organization that device exists in, or the owner of that device is. And I can even group those devices by organization. So if I'm searching perhaps for a device in Brazil in IT, then I can immediately go to that subset of devices. Okay, so we've looked at the devices. Let's look at a slightly more complex version. Let's look at our data centers and clusters. So Snow Adoption Tracker can also integrate into the likes of VMware, Hyper-V, Red Hat, all these areas that are potential risk in terms of understanding exactly what's out there. These are often contained data center environments that it's difficult to see inside sometimes. So what I can do is get a list automatically of all my hypervisors which are hosting various servers, virtual machines and applications, and I can get a view of the relationships between all those devices. So I can see this cluster is made up of 12 hosts. It has 24 processors and 300 cores. And it also has 341 virtual machines in it. Now, I talked about discovery before, and here's another key aspect of discovery. So it's important to understand if you've got an inventory source for all your virtual machines. And here we can see I've got some gaps. So now I know I've got some gaps. I've got some known knowns, and I can start closing those down. I can also see at a click all the applications that are installed across all those virtual machines. I can see the definitions of the host or the configurations of those host machines. And obviously I can see all the individual virtual machines and how they are configured, and even what status they are in. I can see I've got some powered off machines in here, for example. Potentially those could be using licenses or applications unnecessarily. And we can also get a view of the actual configuration of our VMware cluster in this case. So what additional add-ons have we got installed in this environment? Because these also have implications from a licensing point of view. So let's dig a little deeper into our applications. So I talked about the data intelligence service. So what does it look like when we take all that raw inventory data and transform it? We're normalizing it, removing all the noise. And now we get a nice view of all the applications that are installed in my environment. They're easily understandable. I can see which manufacturers I have, how many installations of each product might I have, how many users of those products are there. And here's the other key area. How much time does it take to research an application and not only understand what it really is from an executable name, but to understand actually, does it require a license? So we can do that automatically in my environment. And now I can see from my 15,000 applications exactly how many require a license. And this kind of gives me a kind of a risk register, if you like, of licensable applications. And I can even drill down to understand, is this application part of a bundle? And what might be included in that bundle? Let's take a quick look at an application. Here's Microsoft Office 2016 Project Professional. I think what's important is, let's imagine you've got a contract renewal coming up for your Microsoft environment, or maybe you've got a true up for this particular product. I can drill into this product and understand, do I need to buy more licenses, or could I have the ability to true down in this case for Project Professional? Well, we can see the compliance status here, but really it's looking in case of adoption tracker is understanding where project in this case is installed, so on which devices. And we can see a large number, 979 here. But really we can also see that a lot of people are not actually using this application. In fact, I can see that actually only 35 have used it, and I can even understand when they last used it. So now this puts me in a much better position to be able to look at potentially renegotiating that contract. One final thing I wanted to talk about was I mentioned the SaaS applications within an environment. So simply by searching for cloud, I can look for a list of any known URLs that exist in our database of those 8,000 applications and immediately understand where I've got some potential risks. Now, this is not, per se a compliance risk, but certainly it is a risk to some of my data potentially, because I could have people purchasing licenses or subscriptions via their corporate credit card. And we could also have some security risks among these applications. Are we potentially sharing data that might be a security risk for the likes of things like Dropbox, etc. within my environment that I'm unaware of? Okay, so that kind of wraps up the demo for now. So just to summarize, here's a few of the use cases you've just seen that hopefully you can use in discussions within your organizations. So first, you really need to be able to discover the technology used inside your business. And without that, you're never going to get to any kind of baseline for vendors. Second, you most likely need to be able to consolidate multiple data sources into one normalized common source of truth. Thirdly, with the help of the data intelligence service and its normalization process, you can easily understand exactly which editions and versions of software are being used. And this really aids in the consolidation and risk mitigation. Fourth, you can help the business with the introduction and adoption of new technologies and really help drive cost and resource efficiencies. And finally, be credible leaders of technology transition planning, having confidence in the data that supports those IT business making decisions. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and Robbie, we'll jump into a Q&A if that's okay. I'll take a few questions.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, that was really useful. I mean, I think the obvious thing that stands out to me is the fact that a lot of businesses really struggle, a lot of organizations, they really struggle to get accurate data that they can then use to make intelligent business decisions, whether it be software related, optimization of licensing, reduction of risk, but even going beyond that, going into things like project planning, etc. Having that foundation, and really accurate inventory is the foundation of any SAM software IT related project. And the really nice thing from what you've shown is that we tick all the boxes with adoption tracker. So that's that's exactly, I think, what the industry at the moment, or what a lot of organizations really need. So if I can run through some questions that have been sent in. If people do have any questions, please use the live event Q&A box. I think it comes up on the right hand side. You should have a little kind of speech bubble at the bottom with a question mark in it, which is to bring up the Q&A window, and then you can just put any comments that you want in there. So a couple of comments, a couple of questions, Tony, if I can.
Sure.
So first, if someone doesn't already have an inventory tool or an inventory data source, do you have any recommendations, any suggestions?
Yes, so good question. Yeah, so Adoption Tracker comes with its own inventory agent, and this is a highly robust agent, obviously, that we have on several million devices globally. It's very lightweight, and only has a very small overhead on the machine. Basically, it only scans the machine once a day, and it only does delta scans. So the level of data is very small. And I think one of the key things to remember about sort of third-party inventory sources versus our agent technology, which is obviously built for that particular task, is that those third-party agents won't always give you the insights that you might need. Specifically, I think what I see quite a lot is around usage data. So being able to understand whether an application has been used or not, which you get with Adoption Tracker, and with Adoption Tracker you also get a last usage date. Now, I know we're going to go on to talk about some of the other products within the suite, and obviously they give you more granular levels. But yeah, the third-party tools, typically we work a lot with hybrid models. So you could have both. You could have perhaps SCCM for your server estate, for example, where organizations sometimes don't want to install another agent on a product, but for the end user devices I would highly recommend our agent.
Okay, that's great. I think the fact that if somebody already has an inventory source will help them get more value out of it, and if they don't, we'll give them something that will help them get more value. So I think that's a good sort of a good approach.
Yeah.
Next question. Will Adoption Tracker automatically identify all operating systems and versions?
Yes, absolutely. So we've seen this a lot, perhaps a little bit more in the past, but certainly for operating systems where you're looking to migrate to newer operating systems, or where there is perhaps some known vulnerabilities in some of the older versions, then Adoption Tracker can certainly help you to very quickly highlight those, because again, quite often if you're using an existing inventory source, it can be quite cumbersome to even make sure you've got full coverage of your estate, let alone understand exactly what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. I think you answered this already in your answer to the first question, Tony, but let me just repeat it. Is the Snow inventory agent resource or network heavy?
Right. Yeah. So no, it's very lightweight. Certainly on the Windows side, you're probably looking at about something like 40 to 60 kilobytes of information, and like I said, it's very lightweight on the end device. The users, it's pretty much imperceptible to the users in terms of when it runs. They don't all run at the same time either, so they run within a defined window period, so perhaps an hour period. So it doesn't create a lot of network traffic all in one go. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that might be useful to know. It's obviously from a security point of view, it's encrypted at both ends as well. So it's encrypted on the device and at rest and in transit.
Excellent, thank you. A follow on to the previous question about operating systems, does Snow Adoption Tracker inventory non-Windows OS devices?
Yes, so we can do other OSs, if you like. Yeah, so things like Mac, Windows, Linux, Unix, you name it, really.
Yeah, pretty much all the OSs
All
that
the
you
main
would
ones.
typically find
Yes.
in a corporate environment.
Exactly.
How does Snow work with applications that are unique to a company? So maybe in-house developed or stuff that's been specifically proprietary to that organization.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. It's a good question. You know, sometimes it's useful for organizations to understand exactly what applications they've got that they might have developed in-house. So whether that's from a, you know, typically it's from an adoption point of view. You know, are our users really using these applications that we're spending all this time and money developing, or they specifically want to track something that they use perhaps for particular regions or whatever that might be. So within the data intelligence service, what customers can do is they can request that a particular application that they use is added to the database. It's only obviously added to their database and not to everybody's database because it's their own unique application. But essentially, they just fill out a form, submit that to our support department, and our data intelligence team will add that to their database so they can recognize it.
Excellent. And then final question, how does Adoption Tracker discover all my devices? So how does it make sure that my inventory is accurate?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit to this in the demo around, you know, looking at other data sources essentially, because, you know, it can be quite unwieldy for large organizations to understand exactly what they've got. That tends to be a blocker to them actually, you know, going down the SAM route, because they just think, oh, this is just too difficult. You know, I can't ever hope to succeed at this. But it's really not that difficult, and it's thinking about where you've got existing data sources for discovery. So Snow approaches it in a couple of ways. One is with Adoption Tracker, you could scan your network for devices, so you could do that imperceptibly as well, and try and identify them that way. Typically what organizations do is we have a standard integration into Active Directory. So, you know, looking at what devices have been permissioned within your environment should give you a really good picture of what's really out there. And also things like, I've also seen it work well with like antivirus consoles, where you're also likely to have all your machines listed. So again, we could compare to that and understand the delta between devices discovered and devices inventoried, so that you can start closing that gap.
Excellent. And then the last question, which I'll actually use as a bit of a plug for the next webinar in this series. So the last question was, is Adoption Tracker just for discovery? Well, in essence, to an extent, yes. It's about intelligence. It's about giving you visibility of what software you've got, where it is, kind of how it's being used. The next event that we have, which is on the 19th of August, is similar to today, but around Snow's spend auditor. Tony, can you just give us a 10-second overview of spend auditor, just to whet the appetite of people who might want to look to register for that event?
Yeah, so spend auditor sort of goes to the next level, as you say there, Robbie, and really this is where you can start to look to add in your licenses and your agreements to start building out compliance views for each of your vendors. So understanding what risks you've got within your environment, and perhaps where you've got a lack of, let's say, compliance data. So that might be entitlement data, contractual evidence, but bringing all those together and automatically being able to understand where you have any compliance risks.
Excellent. Perfect plug, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes all of the questions. If anybody does have any further questions, please get in contact with us. Our contact details will be on the invite that was sent out. We'll also send a follow-up to everybody who attended, just to see if you do have any further questions. I'd certainly recommend having a conversation with us about what what Adoption Tracker can do, how it can help your organization to really get a better view and better intelligence as to what software you've got, where it is, how it's used. As Tony indicated earlier on, it's a very light, very easy to implement product. I saw an interesting quote the other day, Tony, from somebody at Gartner who basically said that only about 25% of organizations who purchase a SAM tool are actually happy that the SAM tool is delivering on their needs. And for me, it definitely seems that this is a step in the right direction, that kind of simplifying and making the approach to SAM more modular is the right way forward. So hopefully those who've attended and listened, seen your presentation might feel the same way and feel the same optimism that they can start to make some progress on their kind of SAM maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're here to help those customers, and really what the ultimate goal is to go on that journey with them, and for them not to have to buy everything, and like I said earlier, be really frightened of the product because they don't really know how to approach it, but to do it in this sort of crawl, walk, run type of approach.
Yeah, perfect. So just a reminder, everybody, so 19th of August is the next event in this series, and that will be covering Snow Spend Auditor. There will be further events covering the other products and kind of platforms that Tony outlined earlier on. Thank you, Tony, very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks, guys, for attending. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to ping me an email, or like I said, we will be in touch as a follow-up, so we can answer any questions then. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll hopefully see you on the 19th of August. Thank you.